Hey, folks. Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream when we scan out and look over what's happening right now in the Middle East and scan the scene, I should say, of what's happening in Gaza in particular. A lot of people have been asking since October 7th, is this prophetic? What does the Bible say about the wars that Israel's engaged in on seven fronts with Iran and its allies, with the Iranian axis, the Ring of Fire? What does it all mean? October 7th was like the gates of hell were unleashed. What does it all mean? And now we've seen over the past nearly 2 years now, Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis, it's all just expanding, breaking out seemingly in the cradle of the Bible, in the heart of the Middle East. So what does it all mean prophetically? Well, we've broken this down a bunch. I've called it the October 7th Wars, just a series of conflicts Israel has had against the Iranian axis since October 7th, in which Israel has, by the way, just achieved stunning successes. I mean, historic successes where I believe the God of Israel has gone ahead of the IDF in some of these engagements and ahead of Israeli intel. What they've been able to pull off is just astounding. And it's only made the world hate Israel even more. More on that in a second. But look, prophetically, I think we're seeing the groundwork laying for obviously Ezekiel's war, the war of Gog and Magog. Funny name, I know. Bear with me. Just check out the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, breaks it all down. But I think certainly the groundwork's being laid for that. Through these October 7th wars, a larger conflict is coming in which God has a lot to say, as we'll discuss in a minute. But in the meantime, you saw the title, the thumbnail today. I thought today would be a good day to unpack another very important passage in the Bible. And it's prophetic, no doubt. And it absolutely applies 1000% to the times we are living in right now. But it's not Ezekiel 38, 39. It's not Isaiah 17, which talks about the destruction of Damascus. It's not from the book of Revelation. It's not from, a lot of people talk about Psalm 83. It's none of those. Jeremiah 49. We've talked about all these verses here in the live stream over the years and months. This is a verse or a passage which at first glance you might say, well, it's not really Bible prophecy, but I think it is because I apply it to 2025 and wow, here's where we're at. We're in these days that the prophet Isaiah described. Here we go. I'm going to quote it directly. The book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 20. You've heard me talk about this a bunch, but to reiterate to you and its current meaning and relevance, here it is. Woe to those, this is God saying, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Okay. Calling what's good, all that's good and true, calling that evil, and calling dark demonic evil good. Hello, 2025. Darkness for light, light for darkness, embracing the darkness and trying to cast out the light, 2025. Sweet for bitter, bitter for sweet, same thing. Being wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Think of Yahya Sinwar and what he did on October 7th. He thought he was achieving the greatest coup in the history of Hamas. Instead, he signed his own death warrant. But we can extend that also to a variety of leaders and personalities in the West as well. But tell me that's not, in regards in particular, let's use Israel as a test case and the Gaza war as a test case, calling good evil and evil good. I mean, tell me that this does not encapsulate what we're seeing now with Israel and the propaganda war that Israel is facing. The relentless castigation of the world's one and only Jewish state, the lies, the outright bold-faced lies. I mean, with really no hesitation, no remorse, I mean, open, outright lies being told about Israel right now when it comes to Gaza. And not by the usual suspects, not just by, say, the UN or obviously Iran, Erdogan, and Turkey. Oh, no. We're talking the West. We're talking about the pro-Palestinian, aka pro-Hamas cause, and the anti-Israel mantle moving here to the West, where I'm sitting right now. I'm in the United States. We're a bastion of sanity, at least at the governmental level. We've certainly got pockets of madness here. Look no further than our college campuses who are feeding into all of this. But you go to London, Berlin, Paris, Ottawa, Canada, Sweden of all places, Ireland, Spain, the pro-Palestinian narrative has a firm grip. And Israel is a pariah to many of these people. And we're talking about the Western world. We're talking about the Western world, and Judeo-Christian Western civilization, or what's left of it, which was derived from ancient Israel, from the Ten Commandments, from the teachings of Jesus. That's what built Western civilization. That's undeniable. Even an atheist has to admit that Western civilization, Judeo-Christian civilization, was based first and foremost from the Ten Commandments, then the teachings of Jesus. The Bible, both books, Old and New, laid out the civilization that was built. And now the standard bearers for that civilization, other than President Trump, and we've got a few others, but in terms of leadership, President Trump is a modern day Churchill, in my view, standing athwart a sea of Chamberlains. But these so-called standard bearers for the West have completely lost their minds. I shouldn't even say lost their minds, because there was moral rot there to begin with and a complete lack of moral clarity and common sense. But at any rate, they have gone all in on identifying good as evil. So Israel, the victim, I never like calling Israel a victim, but certainly Israel was the victim of October 7th, in that they were the target. They didn't start it. It was unprovoked. But now it's been flipped, and the aggressors, Hamas, are now the victims. Very interesting how that works. Good, evil, evil, good. And Israel, which is doing everything it can, which is bending over backwards to get aid into Gaza, into the hands of needy Gazans, while Hamas is stealing the aid and either gobbling it up themselves. You see some of the footage of fat Hamas jihadis. It's out there. Or selling it to their fellow Gazans at exorbitant prices. They're the good guys. You're not hearing anything about that. Starving Israelis. We saw the footage over the weekend. Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad released it. Starving Israelis. Mainstream media here in the West, shrugs their shoulders. But take a false photograph that was posted last week, a week or two ago, by the New York Times, with an emaciated little child in Gaza, and man, they run with that. But here's the problem. He wasn't emaciated because of starvation. We later learned he was emaciated because of a pre-existing condition that had nothing to do with starvation. And the New York Times says, oops, and they issue a retraction. They bury the retraction. No one even saw it practically. But the damage was already done. The lie had traveled halfway across the world. And everyone missed the retraction. Good, evil, evil, good. Israel is airdropping aid. Israel has truck upon truck entering Gaza to deliver the aid, and it's really simple to see what happens. And the UN has admitted this just this week, that 80% of the aid shipments in the trucks are seized by Hamas and commandeered by Hamas. Hamas is taking the food and the aid. What should Israel do in that position? It's not the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. It's not their job to be a food bank and to distribute food. That's not what they're trained for. It's not what they do. It's aid. It's the UN and UN aid foundations. You have the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, which is great. My friend Johnny Moore runs it, and they're getting 1 million meals a day to the people of Gaza, despite constant opposition by Hamas, because Hamas doesn't want to get these people fed. Hamas wants to take it, as I said a minute ago, for themselves, number one. This is not hard to see. They're taking the aid and doing all sorts of things with it. Because if the people of Gaza are fed and they're happy and they're getting taken care of, that's bad for Hamas. They lose a propaganda coup there. Hamas is perpetrating this starvation lie through the Gaza Health Ministry. And I love it. Western media sources say, well, the Gaza Ministry of Health said that there's a starvation and famine epidemic. The Gaza Ministry of Health is Hamas. They run every ministry in Gaza because they run Gaza. They govern, if you call it that, Gaza. This is madness. So Israel can't win. This is the first time in history that I know of, and I'm a student of history, as I'm sure a lot of our viewers are, our watchmen and women on the wall, that Israel is at war. Okay, Gaza is not a nation state, but to a nation state, Israel is at war with an entity, at a full-blown war. First time I can remember that one of the combatants is apparently responsible for feeding and clothing its enemy. Since when did it become Israel's responsibility to feed and clothe every Gazan in a time of war that was launched out of Gaza without provocation, and which involved, by the way, thousands of Palestinian civilians also flooding into Israel on October 7th and joining in with Hamas, joining in the carnage? The same Palestinians in Gaza who voted overwhelmingly for Hamas back in 2006 and who polls show still support October 7th. They're glad it happened. When did it become Israel's responsibility to feed and clothe and take care of them and give them shelter? Israel's at war with a large chunk of the people in Gaza right now. Not every Gazan civilian, I know that. But either Hamas or people who support Hamas in Gaza. Yeah, there's a lot of them still. So why? This is insane. If Hamas is the governing force there, it is Hamas's duty to feed and provide aid to the people during a time of war, or at least to facilitate it. What am I missing here? Is Russia right now feeding the people of Ukraine and airdropping food into Kyiv as it bombs Kyiv? And likewise, is Ukraine airdropping food into Moscow? Why isn't anyone else talking about this? Do you see what I'm saying? Please comment if you do. Israel had a war launched against it from Gaza with a brainwashed, violent, overwhelmingly population. That's undeniable, or at least supporting a violence. Completely brainwashed Hamas zombie population, which hates Israel and wants to see it destroyed. Not every Gazan, I know that. But poll after poll shows large chunks, and their voting history shows that as well, voting Hamas into power. So Israel has to turn around now and doing this while Hamas still holds 20 live Israeli hostages. Is anyone else seeing this? I know a few of us are talking about it, like Mark Levin, other people, John Spencer, who's great. Israel has no obligation to drop any aid into Gaza during a time of war, when it's at war with an entity, and the entity that rules Gaza. None. Yet Israel is doing it. And Israel still can't win because they're doing it. They're attempting to do it. And the aid is being openly stolen by Hamas. And the world's not pointing at Hamas. They're pointing at Israel. Make it make sense. You can't, other than Isaiah 5:20, which I began with. Good is called evil and evil is called good. Welcome to prophetic times, Bible times. You're living in them. And that's why you're here. And we love having you here. Our watchmen and women on the wall. Drop a comment here and let me know what you think of this. Am I off base? To me, and I could have said this before October 7th. I could say this with the gender madness, for instance, when people are applauding, not to get too off topic, we're focusing Israel, Middle East, of course, but good, evil, evil, good. Hey, drag queen story hour. That's great. That's a good thing. A little kid getting mutilated and changing his or her gender. That's a good thing. And if you're against that, you're evil. I mean, the examples go on and on. A completely, here in America and in Europe, a completely open border, letting anyone come into your country completely unvetted, that's good. Trying to have border security and sane border policies, that's bad. That's evil. You're a racist. You're a xenophobe. We could go on and on. But I think Israel is really, and I've been saying this over the past few weeks here, I think we're at a wheat and tares, sheep and goats kind of moment, not only for individuals and leaders, but for nations. And Israel is one of the main dividing lines. Will you call good evil and evil good? The Isaiah 5:20 factor. Hey, if you like what you're hearing, it's current events, breaking news, chiefly from Israel and the Middle East, but we go around the horn all around the world. And from, as you can tell, an unapologetically biblical perspective for such a time as this, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Follow us also X, Facebook, Instagram, across social media. And check us out, too. We have 2 channels here on YouTube, if you can believe it. The Stakelbeck Tonight channel. It's at Stakelbeck Tonight. It's our second YouTube channel featuring great content from my nightly broadcast TV show called Stakelbeck Tonight. It's on TBN, the world's largest Christian television network, every Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're kind of busy, as you can tell. And that's why we're so proud and honored to have great partners like Magen, Adom. They are Israel's emergency services system. You've heard me talk a bunch about Magen Adom. We are very honored to partner with Israel's first responders at a time where, look, we've been discussing Israel's fighting a war on 7 fronts, and it's unrelenting, and Gaza's about to ramp up. Prime Minister Netanyahu saying, look, we're going to, or reports are at least, that he's strongly considering just conquering Gaza now. And we talked about this on a live stream on Monday, just destroying Hamas and letting the chips fall where they may. The time for diplomacy is over. It was tried and tried. Hamas doesn't want to do it. Hamas doesn't want to play ball. It's 0 hour. As world outrage and pressure mounts on Israel, it's coming to a head. During times like this is when Israel is in its time of greatest need, really times of greatest need. That's where Magen David Adom comes in. That's where you come in. Again, Israel's emergency services system, they respond to every terror attack, every gun, bomb, rocket from Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, etc. Even heart attacks, car accidents. Their EMTs, their paramedics, their first responders are first on the ground. And by the way, 90% volunteers. They're not getting paid for this, folks. They're doing this because they're doing God's work and they love their fellow countrymen and women, Israeli and Arab alike, by the way. Magen David Adom helps everyone. It's SaveLivesIsrael.com. That's SaveLivesIsrael.com. Magen David Adom dispatches every ambulance in Israel. Every single ambulance. And I see them everywhere. There's Magen David Adom ambulances when I'm in Israel. They distribute, they control, collect, process Israel's blood supply, not only for civilians, but for Israeli soldiers. This is an incredible organization. They've lost over 30 of their volunteers in the line of duty since October 7th, over 17 ambulances, putting their lives on the line for free. It's a volunteer organization, but they are Israel's emergency services system. You want to fulfill that biblical mandate. We're talking Bible prophecy on today's live stream. Genesis 12:3 ring a bell? God says he will bless those who bless the nation of Israel. Magen David Adom is a great place to start. Again, it's SaveLivesIsrael.com. Lend them your support. You will not regret it. It's an incredible organization I'm proud to stand with. Okay, what do you think? I mean, we're leaving comments here. Any thoughts on my, I'm not going to call it a theory, the Isaiah 5:20 theory. It's not a theory. To me, it's fact. I think where we're at right now in 2025 is a time of great and intense spiritual warfare. Number one, I mean, it's out in the open. It's been for years, not just in 2025. This Isaiah 5:20 factor, I mean, this has applied for really the past 2 decades in my mind. It became particularly intense, I think, when Obama took office, during the COVID days and the Biden nightmare. And here in America, look, I said earlier, we've got a Churchill, and I think Israel's got a Churchill in Bibi Netanyahu. So we're blessed. Our two nations, to my mind, and look, we've got a lot of Isaiah 5:20 types in both of our nations. Don't get me wrong. But at the leadership level, you have sanity in both nations, in Israel and America. And guess what? The rest of the world, including right here in the Western world, really hates that. And if we're talking prophecy, if the end game is global governance and a one world government ruled over by a man whose initials are AC, Antichrist, eventually, you know it's coming. I mean, we're talking biblical prophecy, that's in the cards. Who's standing in the way right now? Who's standing in the way of global governance? Who is fiercely sovereign and is not going to play ball with the globalists? Certainly Trump and certainly Netanyahu. Netanyahu is fiercely sovereign, obviously. If he wasn't, he would have caved long ago. If he wasn't someone who was an Israeli patriot, just as Donald Trump is an American patriot. And by the way, every leader of every nation should be a patriot of their respective countries, and Bibi should be Israel first, Trump should be America first, Starmer should be Britain first, and so on. That's how it should be. Macron should be, I don't agree with Starmer and Macron, but they should put their country's interest first. Bibi clearly does that. And like Trump, he blocks out the noise. And at the end of the day, he could do the easy wrong thing or the hard right thing. Look, if Bibi wasn't a fiercely sovereign Israeli patriot, he would have, the Gaza war would have been over in a month. The Biden-Harris administration was pressuring him a few weeks in, end this thing. Iran would still have a nuclear. Look, if Bibi wasn't bold, Iran would still have a nuclear program and be on the march. Hezbollah would be at full force. Hamas would be at full force. We could go on and on. And with President Trump, same deal. So many things would be different. He's been back in office for nearly 7 months. It's been such a sea change. It's happening at such a rapid clip. I don't think my average American citizen, my beloved fellow Americans, even maybe not all, but some, realize just what this man has accomplished, the incredible things Trump's accomplished in nearly 7 months. It's incredible at warp speed. It's amazing. This is what you have when you have bold, visionary leadership that again has the guts and the moral clarity to call good, good, and evil, evil, and not the other way around. So we're blessed in America and Israel to have that, to have the antithesis of Isaiah 5:20, to have leaders who have discernment and who have a moral compass, who have that Churchillian moral compass when it comes to the world at large and geopolitics. And I've compared the Trump-Bibi pairing not only to Churchill, but look, the 1980s. President Reagan, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and Pope John Paul II was in that mix too, standing together, united against the Soviet Empire. Think of Lech Walesa, think of the Solidarity Movement, how they all backed him. And Trump and Bibi today. And look, that 1980s alliance ultimately helped bring down the Soviet Empire. It laid the seeds for the downfall in 1991. And the Berlin Wall fell in 89, the empire crumbled in 91. But the Iranian empire has now crumbled before our eyes, thanks to the Trump-Bibi pairing. And it's God's timing. Before Trump came back into office in January, Bibi was a lone Churchill in a Western world of Neville Chamberlains. And when we talk about the Western world, I'll lump Israel in, because Israel, yes, it's in the heart of the Middle East, and it's very Middle Eastern, but it's also a Western-style democracy, which is closely aligned with the West, with NATO. But throw Australia and Canada in that mix as well, not just Europe and the US. This encompasses the Western world. And Again, I said this at the top, we derived our entire civilization from biblical principles. It all really started in Jerusalem 3,000 years ago. Take it back further. It started on Mount Sinai 3,500 years ago when the Ten Commandments were handed to Moses by God Almighty. That was the genesis, no pun intended, of Western civilization, of Judeo-Christian civilization as we know it. Trump and Bibi, by destroying Iran's nuclear program, just saved it, at least for the time being. Still on life support in many ways, Western civilization, but Trump and Bibi gave a reprieve. By extension, God did, but Trump and Bibi were bold enough to take out an existential threat to the West, not only to Israel, but to the West in the Iranian nuclear program, the Iranian axis. And in doing so, Trump sent a message to Russia, China, North Korea, a deterrent message, which strengthened Western civilization and gave us some breathing room. But not much, because a few weeks later, the leaders of Great Britain, France, and Canada turn around and recognize a Palestinian state, or they promise to recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly next month. I mean, and you wonder why Hamas is dragging this thing out. Why wouldn't they? They're getting everything they want. Okay, let me get this straight, Hamas says. We carry out the worst massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And the West is going to give us a state? Wow. October 7th really paid off. I said earlier, Sinwar signed his own death warrant. But wow. I mean, they're looking at October 7th as a big victory. It helped us get what we want. The whole world, not the whole world, but large chunks of the world have gone mad and turned against Israel. Young people including, even parts of the church, so-called, all turned against Israel. It's anti-Semitic madness like we haven't seen since the days of the Holocaust. And the West has turned against Israel in their Isaiah 5:20 ways. And key Western nations are promising to recognize a Palestinian state, rewarding us, Hamas, for October 7th, essentially. Wow. That's where we're at. So you wonder why I wanted to focus on Isaiah 5:20 today? My gosh, that is where we're at. Here's the good news. On places like this channel, we've got moral clarity. We've got close to 1.1 million subscribers on this channel who have moral clarity. And, you know, I think of the words of God to Elijah, where Elijah basically said he's hiding in a cave. Jezebel is threatened to take his life. He flees. He's hiding in a cave. And he essentially says, God, take my life. I don't want to live anymore. And God says, no, no, no. I still have 7,000 men in Israel who have not bent their knee to Baal, the pagan god Baal. You're not alone, Elijah. You feel alone, but you're not alone. I'm with you, number one, God says. But number two, there are others like you. So take heart. I say the same to you today. Yes, it's Isaiah 5:20 times, no doubt. But God is moving. And there are many like you. Hey, 1.1 million alone on this channel, and many more than that. So be encouraged, stay in prayer, but know the signs and the times. Be like sons and daughters of Issachar. Know the signs, know the times, know what Israel and your whatever nation you're living in around the world, know what your nation should do about it. But keep it in prayer. And keep coming here, and we'll keep walking through this with you shoulder to shoulder. Thanks so much for joining us today. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.